One of the reviewers wrote, "Beyond Summer's Beyond Good." It's really an excellent read, and of course Lisa Wingate's been here before. This is her latest book. It's just been released this week, and we're going to talk to her about that. So let me say welcome. Glad you're here.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Well, you know, I've been looking for this book now since last April because Glenn Dromgoole, who used to live in our community, lives out in Abilene now, but he writes a column in our local paper, and it's called Texas Reads. And Glenn mentioned that you had a new book coming out in July, and he talked about it. And so I said, oh, I'm going to save that. So I saved the page out of it so I could be on the lookout, and I was glad to get a notice that it's out and that you would come in and talk about it. I guess, Lisa, the thing that I always remember is no one in Texas likes to hear anything more than they do about something about Texas. And this is a Texas book.
It is a Texas book.
Well, talk about Dallas and the setting and kind of where it came from and where it's going.
Well, the story is set in a transitioning neighborhood in Dallas, where you've sort of got a mix of new construction moving in and old construction being moved out, and people who have been there before, you know, over the long term, who are among the working poor and those on limited incomes and are living in the houses that have been there. And then you've got people who are moving in, because what you're seeing in Dallas now is a lot of push to people are wanting to move back into the city, into those neighborhoods that have been forgotten for a long time. So that produces a lot of competition for the territory there, and there's a big question as to what do you do as property values go up. It prices existing people out of their neighborhoods, and so how do you reconcile the people who have been there with the people who are coming in? And how do you create some kind of a community that can serve and accommodate all those people without just displacing people who really don't have the funds to get a start somewhere else?
Well, you know, Lisa, in your books, it seems to me that you're able to capture trends that are going on like this, and what you've described is certainly not unlike a number of other cities in Texas and probably other places as well, and yet you find these stories, the personal element, and you incorporate inspiration and reality, and all of that becomes a part of the book. When you start to do that, how do you do it?
I'm always looking at things. I start with a situation, but very quickly I'm looking at who would tell this story, who are the characters in this story, how did they end up in these situations? You know, what is going to happen in this situation to change and alter this person's life and make things different for this person, and provide a growth experience, because every story is about a growth experience. You always meet a character at a struggling point in life, and then the story is really about, you know, how does the character come through that experience? How does the experience change that person? And so to me, every story becomes very personal, even when it starts out like this series did with a story about a neighborhood and a community. It becomes very personal as the characters, as you get to know them, and you're sort of meeting them like you would meet any stranger and just finding out more about their stories. So in a neighborhood that's quite varied, you have everything from people who are homeless and living on the streets to people who are working poor to people who may be coming in with money. And so that's sort of the idea for this, is sort of a mixture of people all in a very confined area. And how does that work out?
What do you want people to take away?
I want people to take away from this, you know, we tend to not really look at each other. We tend to look at each other as fairly stereotypical people, as fairly stereotypical figures in life. And really this story, I think, is about looking beneath the surface of people. Every character in this story learned something, because not only do the poor have their ideas about us, we have their ideas about them. You know, not only do we have our ideas about the homeless have their ideas about us. And so it's really about these women who meet because they end up in close proximity to each other, sort of the haves and the have-nots. And about one of the characters is homeless. So it's really about these three women and how they're meeting together over this neighborhood and also over a literacy class in the neighborhood. How that changes the way they look at each other and how they realize that that everybody does have a story, and just because your circumstances are different, that doesn't mean your story isn't valuable.
Well, I noticed that you have included some discussion points at the back in case a book club uses this, and so I thought, well, that's kind of a neat idea, and questions to discuss. So you've just thought of everything, and we want to put some information on the screen so people will know how to contact you for more information. This is a phone number, 212-366-2606, or you may go to this website, lisawingate.com. And Lisa, we're just thrilled you drove down to share this with us today, and I hope people will read the book. It is called Beyond Summer, and it is Lisa Wingate, and we just look forward to your next one. I'm sure you've got one working right now.
I do have one working right now. I'll have 2 more out next year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll get you back.
Wonderful. I'd love to come back.
Good. And